It's 6 a.m. on the Potholes Reservoir in the fall of the year. In central Washington, this means it's duck hunting season. You're on board with the Meeseburg Duck Taxi, being shuttled by boat to a secluded location. Mardon Resort hunting guide Levi Meeseburg is serious about this business. Duck hunting is in his blood, learning the ropes from grandfather Rod and dad Mike. The first order of business is setting out the decoys. And with Meeseburg is guest hunting host Yakima, Washington hunter Brian Jones. Along with Jones are a few clients and friends out to enjoy a morning hunt on the Potholes Reservoir.
Typically the set I throw depends on where I'm hunting out here. We're hunting out here in the sand dunes, and there's a number of different situations you'll get into. Today we're hunting bigger water. And this time, later here in the year, when we're hunting this bigger water, I like to throw a big set, to get those high-flying birds to come down and decoy. And normally I'll throw about 150. Today we're going to go a little bit more. But, this is a typical set that I'll throw this time of year hunting this bigger water. Now, earlier in the season, when you're hunting smaller pieces of water, I'll usually use 50 to 75 decoys. But that's when you're hunting smaller ponds, and you really don't need that big set to decoy those birds.
Sure. Well, we're here, and it's November. It's a little warm for this time of the year.
That it is.
How do you think that we're going to do today?
We'll get some birds. It's not going to be limit level shooting. There's not a lot of birds in the area. We've got this warm weather, and the birds aren't really pressured to feed that much with this warmer weather. So they don't have to feed as much. They don't have to fly as much. Diver ducks coming right at us. Right here, guys, coming around back. Up, coming around, come over our right shoulder. Better take them.
Levi, we're here today, and we're using these simulated motorized duck decoys. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, basically it's the same exact scenario as we had with the battery-powered ones, which as of last year have been outlawed in the state of Washington. What they run on, it's made by the same company, it's a very similar product, gives the same outcome, but it's a fishing reel like you can see there, and then it's actually about 40 feet of speedometer cable that runs into a gearbox, and as you reel the reel, it spins that speedometer cable, which touches on those gears and spins the wings. You get the same outcome, you just have to do it manually. And it's one way where you can use the decoy and be legal. See, with the battery powered, they've outlawed them now, so this way we can still do it. Unfortunately, now you have to spend time manually reeling them in, but they work just the same. It just takes a little more effort.
And the whole thought process here is to simulate a duck actually landing on the water, correct?
Yeah, it's as you can see those white wings spinning, it simulates those birds as right when they get down and they go from cup to sitting down, they flap those wings real quick to sit down. That's what it simulates. It's a really simple product.
How effective do you find these to be?
I find them very effective with the mallards. Widgeon, pintail, they work also, but you really notice with those big groups of northern mallards that these things are almost like magnets. I've had actually birds hover right above them, and they're really great on water. Where I find them to be the most effective, though, is cornfield hunting, because when you get into cornfield hunting, the birds are coming to the field, but you need to get those birds to come to you. What these decoys do is they get those birds to come to where you are in the field, because decoys in a cornfield are actually difficult to see in that standing corn. And they're really effective there. And it's unfortunate we can't use the battery-powered one, but this is a way around it.
Levi, I noticed that you're carrying quite a few different calls today. Can you kind of share with us a little bit about each one of them and their method of use?
Yeah, mainly the birds we shoot out here on Potholes Reservoir, the majority of the birds are mallards. So these calls right here, they're all mallard calls. But what I like to do is when the birds are out there at a long distance, I'll call pretty loud at them just to let them know you're there. Well, as those birds start to come and get closer and closer, I'll tone it down. I start off with something usually like this, a pretty loud hail call. And then as those birds start to see and they start seeing your decoys are getting closer, you'll continue with the hail call, but you'll start toning it down. And you'll as they come in, you'll. And as those birds get closer, you do some lone hen or some feeder call or stuff like that, something kind of like this. And the feeder call on water really isn't a big deal. It's just some background noise, little confidence stuff. And this is another good confidence call. This is a drake whistle. And it's just something, it's real simple, and as the birds get close, this can really work. And that's mainly what I do. We do get other species out here, but the majority of the birds will come to a mallard call. The pintail and the widgeon will actually decoy to a mallard call. Hey, there's an ice group out there, 12 o'clock. See them at 12 o'clock, man? It's about 15 of them. Swinging over at 9 o'clock. Okay, here they come. Right out here, they're all about 60 yards. They got it ready. Okay, here we go. Let's take them. Well, there's a nice green head. You can see that bulge right there. It's all corn. That's what these birds are eating this time of year. They're eating on that harvested field corn, what's left over after the combine goes through. Yeah, that group decoyed pretty nice.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about this duck spread that you have out here?
Well, basically, it's a pretty simple spread. We put 2 triangles out, as you can see, and we've got, one on each side, then sprinkle a few in the middle, and it leaves that nice open area where those birds have a place to land. Today, obviously, we don't have much of a wind, but it works much better with a nice wind over your back, and you get some calm water right in front. Those ducks don't like to sit in that rough water. They like that calm water. And you get them in, decoy nice. Every day's different, but the scenario, if it works right, the birds typically will decoy right in front. Everybody gets a nice even shot.
Because of the warm weather, the bird activity was light, so Levi prepared a special treat for everyone in the blind.
Levi, one of the things that I was looking forward to when we came to the duck taxi is that I had heard that you were going to make some shish kebabs for us here in the blind. Can you give us an idea as to what you're doing here?
Yeah, it's basically quite simple. What we do is we use the willow sticks that are here on the island for your skewers, and I think they add a little bit of flavor. And then we take some of the ducks that we've harvested throughout the day, and we cut those ducks up into nice, chunk size. About 1 inch by 1 inch is pretty good. And mix in some of those pieces of duck, and a little bit of apple, a little bit, I like bell peppers, some mushrooms occasionally. Pineapple is always good. And we put it on that willow stick that we use as our kebab skewers, and then we cook it over this bucket you see right here, which is kind of just basically a simple barbecue, and have a nice glass of wine and have some duck when, at the end of the day, when everything starts slowing down, it's, a nice lunch and a nice way to end your good day of hunting. Brian, you get the pleasure of the first one. Oh, stick's about ready to break.
All right.
Richard, you might be ready. Yep. There we go.
From the duck blind to elk camp, here's a great outdoor recipe you can try with apples and cinnamon.
We're here in the center of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in our elk camp, and we're going to show you a neat dessert trick that you can do with apples. Now, we stopped by a fruit stand on the way in, but there's always that farmer's tree hanging over the road that you could probably capture a few on your way up the hill. So if you're bright and alert, you'll probably have the apples before you get to camp. We brought ours. What we're going to do today is we're going to take and core, going to cut these apples in half. We're going to core them. I'm going to set these down. We're going to take a little spoon, and I'm going to take and spoon, kind of cut out with the spoon, a little dish affair in the center of this apple. Put that core over here. We've got this, now a little hole in there, and a little old camp spoon works very nicely as a knife to get in there. So it'll core them right out and leave a nice little cup. There's our fourth one. Take and core that out. Leaves a nice space in the center. And to that, we're going to put in the center of it, in the center of each one of them, we're going to add some brown sugar to each one of those. Put a little chunk in there, a little batch in each one of them. Bit in that one. Bit in that one. Maybe a little more in there. Now we're going to add a little piece of butter. This is the tricky part, but I just want to put a little bit of butter in the center of each one of those. Not a lot, just a little bit. And seeing as how this is camp, I can use my fingers because we're eating with friends. Now we brought along the magic ingredient. These are cinnamon red hot candies. And we're going to take and put a half a dozen also in the center of each one of those apple cores. Or whatever it'll hold. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Put a couple on the floor for the dog. But it's elk camp, we can do that. I'm going to move this aside. I'm going to bring over, I took this 2 sheets of aluminum foil and made kind of a boat so I can set each one of these down in the center of it. I'm going to set all 4 of those apples in there. And then we're going to add a little cinnamon, sprinkle lightly on top of all 4 of them. We're just going to dust it with a little cinnamon. A little extra flavor. To that, we're going to add in the bottom of the foil so they don't burn, just some plain old drinking water. Probably just enough to create a little steam and enough to keep them from burning. So we'll put about that much water in the bottom. We're going to take the foil and close it completely up and seal it. We want that stuff in there to steam. So in reality, we're going to end up with steamed poached apples done in aluminum foil that you can do in your deer, elk camp, fishing camp, or you can do it at home on your patio or deck. Makes a great pastry. Sometimes you can take and put oatmeal in the center of those cores along with your apples and have a really neat finished product. We're going to put this on a grill and cook it at takes about 15 minutes and they'll be done. Our cinnamon apples for dessert should be done by now. We'll open this up so we can take a look and see. There they are. Those are poached. You can see the wonderful juice in the bottom. We'll put the apples in a serving plate here. And if you were serving them, we'd save this liquid in the bottom, which is apple juice and cinnamon melted. We'll take our plates that we would normally give our portions to, and we'll just put a little drizzle of the liquid in each one of those. So we're going to pour a little bit of that liquid into the bottom of each one of the bowls, and then we'll transfer the apples to it and serve it. And there we have elk camp apple cinnamon dessert. Hot and tasty.
Like you got a nice Chinook on.
Now head to the Puget Sound in western Washington state as fishing host Hobart Mans hooks up with guide John Kaiser. Kaiser runs Puget Sound salmon charters out of Tacoma, and when the fish are biting, he is one of the first anglers to hit the water. Kaiser has a fishing portfolio of a who's who of the fishing world in the Northwest. Besides guiding, he is a founding member of the Puget Sound Anglers Association, a fishing club. The new venture Kaiser is running is a unique school to learn how to fish. It's called Salmon University. We now join Hobart and John on the water south of Seattle looking for Chinook salmon.
We're just north of Tacoma, just north of Gig Harbor. This is called Point Richmond, this little beach area right here, and Seattle's just up around the corner here when we go a little bit farther north. This is kind of a holding area for the salmon. They kind of come right through and cut this corner and head south this time of year. So,
in the Salmon University seminars, do you talk to the point about how to eliminate grass and weeds or at least slow it down in your classrooms?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know as well as I do that the ball-bearing swivels are like the life's blood for trying to troll these flashers. So one of the things we do is we put this thing called a golf tee above it. What that does is it helps deflect a lot of the grass off the swivel itself, and then in combination with 2 ball-bearing swivels, you know, that gives you a pretty good spin on the flasher. Because if this flasher actually works by creating noise in the water, if it's not turning over at a good rate of speed, it's not going to work very well.
You've taken a herring fillet,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to put that on the hook.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the top hook, just barely hook it, and bring it back around.
Now I'm going to ask you the silly question.
Okay.
Is there a reason why you come from meat side to the skin with the hook, or does it make any difference?
Yeah, it holds better.
Okay.
Yeah, by going through the meat side and having the skin down, it actually stays on a little bit better. It's got a little bit more of a pull
Tougher
to it.
purchase.
Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead and put that out. Yeah, I like to run them back about 20 feet or so, get them away from the boat a little bit.
Fishing in 70 to 80 feet of water, Kaiser carefully monitors his boat's speed while trolling his flashers at 55 feet, and then fish on.
Well, here we are at Salmon University, getting exactly what we hoped.
That fish is smoking.
That is out there.
Let me get this one out of your way, and it'll be a little easier to play.
Ooh, he is right up on top too. He'll do a 20. Oh, and with barbless hooks, you really can't give him any slack.
No, not really.
As hot as that fish is,
And he's going to be a bit yet.
He really smoked it. Come on, baby. We're going to school on this one.
Okay.
You promised a learning experience when we came. Oh, yes. Down, 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 down.
Stay down, boy.
Beautiful Puget Sound Chinook.
Boy, he's fat.
Give him another second here. Okay, I'm going to lead him up.
Okay. Nice fish.
Perfect.
Boy, that's a beauty. Boy, you really hammered that fly. You got it right in the top of the
Yes,
mouth
he
there.
did.
Boy, what a pretty fish, Albert.
That was a really hot little fish.
Did you see the way he took off? I mean,
Oh,
he screamed line out of that reel, just like, you know, that's what's nice about these fish down here. I mean, they're hot fighters. So
I actually thought that he was both bigger and than he actually turned out to be, because he was out 150 yards out there.
oh, yeah, easy.
He smoked him.
Yeah, it's, you know, on these 10.5-foot rods too, especially, boy, I'll tell you, that's a fun battle.
Yes,
Especially-
it is. The just minus a fin back here, so that's what, one of your hatchery
Yeah,
program
this is one of
fish?
our program fish. You notice his adipose fin's clipped, and that's quite common that you'll see down here. We see quite a few of them that way.
Beautiful black mouth and black spots. That indicates the Chinook along with the square tail.
Mhm.
So that's wonderful. And we caught him on that fly that you've got in your hand.
Yeah, this is called a Grand Slam bucktail. It's just a mylar fly with the head on it, and we tie it with a few little beads in there and a couple 4/0 hooks behind
Now,
a
it's got
flasher.
a very interesting head. If you just kind of hold it still there so we can see that. That head looks very much like a real fish, a little herring head.
Mm-hmm.
Good looking bug.
Yeah, it works good. We've done real well on them. In fact, quite a few of the fish we see get caught this morning have been on these.
Okay, let's see if we can get another one.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Trolling with downriggers is the most productive way to fish for these powerful Chinook salmon on the Sound. Besides using a whole herring or mylar flies with strips of herring meat, John takes advantage of the technology available when guiding clients on the water.
I got a couple of Lowrance units here. This is sonar and GPS combination. They actually will both do either one. What we're looking at here is some bait about 100 feet down, and we're at 173 feet of water, and this side over here is basically a zoom of the bottom part of this side. And on the other side over here we have our GPS, which if I zoom out a little bit you'll be able to see that it shows where we're fishing at and the way that we can navigate all those red trails of where we've been trolling at. So we're doing about 2 miles an hour right now. And I can control the motor down here. This is actually the remote control for the kicker motor. I can control the speed and steer from right here. And last but not least is our black box, which is monitoring our voltage on our downrigger wire. We're looking at 0.66 of 1 volt.
In retrospect, John, we've had a great day on the water today. We've learned a lot of things here at Salmon University. And before I talk to you about the water, I do have a question for you. If you were to pass along, say, 2 tips to people fishing the Puget Sound, 2 of the most important things that you teach in your classroom and here, what would those tips be?
Well, with regards to the way we're fishing today with the downriggers, speed would be the first one. If you do not go fast enough in order for that flasher that we're using today to rotate properly, if it's just barely moving over, that's not going to work. You actually got to have that thing rotating. So speed's is a critical thing. What we like to look for is like a 45 degree on that downrigger wire, and then we know that that flasher's working properly and it's making that noise in the water that's attracting fish. And the second thing would be fish, and fish often. So.
And that time on the water spent with you and or here at Salmon University is constantly a learning experience, because I learned things from you today, and I'm out fishing a lot, and I saw you doing things that are different and things that one needs to remember or write down in a memory bank. At Salmon University, both online and here, what are some of the topics that you would normally cover?
Well, what we do on the Salmon University webpage is we cover all of Washington and British Columbia and the saltwater areas. And we list maps. We'll have a regular map of the area. It'll tell you where to go and how to fish it, what tide to be fishing on what side of a particular island. It'll tell you what tackle to use. And then there's plenty of local tips on which marinas and which hotels that are available to stay at and that kind of thing. The seminar series itself, myself and Tom Nelson we travel around doing these. It's normally, it'll cover mooching, jigging, trolling, downrigger fishing, how to rig your boat, how to fish areas in Washington and in Canada. It's an all-day thing. We may start at 8 in the morning and goes till 5 in the afternoon, and the folks really enjoy it. You know, they get a lot out of it.
Thanks to guides like John Kaiser, fishing for salmon is getting easier. With the online resource now available to the public, anglers of all skill levels can now learn how to improve their catch ratio. This show ends with an outdoor survival tip from Peter Comerfield on how to keep drinking water safe.
I've been a survival instructor for over 35 years. And there's a few things I've learned along